Alright everyone, welcome back to another episode of Smitty's Gunsmithing. Today, I want to go over an update to the last video I did on cleaning the AR15 and go over something that I failed to mention in the last video. That's a word of caution on the bolt carrier group. And this is the only part we're going to be discussing today. And by the way, I hope you like the new intro I finally figured out how to make. But in today's video, talking about the bolt carrier group, I mentioned in the last video some different tools that makes cleaning this a little bit easier. One's the Otis Bone tool that I have here. The other is the Real Avid Carbon Boss AR15. And these tools are great. They help make the job a lot easier. Whenever last time how you got your scraper right here to get up inside where the bolt goes. You got your brush for your bolt tail. This little tool right here to scrape the bolt face around the extractor. Tool for your firing pin. Then this Otis Bone tool, which gets up inside your bolt carrier where your bolt goes and cleans out this area right in here. And these are great. These are wonderful. They help, with cleaning. But a word of caution when using these: use them only when needed and as sparingly as possible. And I'm going to kind of detail a little bit of why here. As I disassemble this, I'll show you some key things that you want to watch for and some cautionary notes. Just lay these over here out of the way for now. Almost fill up. Okay. As I mentioned before, this is your bolt face right here. This is your bolt tail, and here are your gas keys or gas rings. There's 3 of them right there. Okay. This creates a seal back in your AR when your bolt is in here. This chamber right in here, where this bolt tail goes in, at the back, this chamber drops down in size. There's like a step back there, and I talked about how the carbon builds up around that step. Okay, well, when it's sitting in your AR15 like this, your gas comes down through your gas tube into your gas key right here, and it goes down the chamber right back in this general area right here. Okay, this hole right here, or rather this hole in the back right down in there, and it's kind of going to be hard to see, but there's a hole over way down in there that your firing pin goes through right here. Okay, alright, your firing pin is sitting up in your bolt face like this. Okay, so your firing pin and the rear of your bolt tail kind of seal this up back here on the back. Okay, alright, so when your gas comes in, your gas key, and so your gas rings right here, there's 3 little rings. They seal the bolt at the front, and this seal from the front to the rear is what allows this bolt to rotate and lock and unlock, which travels a distance of about from there to there, not very far. Okay, all right, maybe not even quite that far because I don't have the cam pin in, but you know how I showed you in the last video how it rotates forward and back, okay? And that locks and unlocks your bolt into your locking lugs of your chamber. This all has to be, the gas has to be retained in this section right here of your bolt carrier group in order for your AR15 to cycle properly, okay? Because this is a direct impingement firing system. So it utilizes the gas from the spent round being fired to go down your gas tube through your gas key and into your bolt carrier group, and that's what drives this back. Okay. So as this drives this back in your firearm, the gas is retained right in here. All right. The word of caution is this proper operation depends on a proper seal between your gas keys right here, gas rings. See, I keep saying keys, but it's your gas rings. This is your gas key. Okay, so you got to have a proper seal between your bolt carrier and your gas rings right here. Okay, and you also got to have a proper seal on your bolt tail, because that's what seals it at the back here. Okay, the surface of this bolt tail right here. That's why you'll see a lot of build-up carbon in this area right here. Let's see if I can get this so you can see it better. This curved area right here on your bolt tail. Okay. It depends on this fitting in there tightly. You don't want to be too tight, but it's got to be sealed. So what happens is, if you excessively clean and excessively scrape this area of the bolt tail, and I showed you the Otis bone tool right here. It's got those scrapers inside of it, if you can see them right there. They go over this and they scrape build up carbon off your bolt tail. Okay, it's all well and good to do this occasionally, and as long as you don't do it aggressively. You don't want to do this every time you clean your bolt carrier group. Okay, same thing with the other end of the tool here. That goes up in here and scrapes the carbon from that chamber. Okay, you only want to do that when it's necessary for cleaning both of these. Okay, it doesn't matter which tool you use, the Otis bone tool, or if you use the carbon boss and go up in there and scrape that surface, or you take your brush and scrape your bolt tail. Okay, and there's another tool here somewhere. I'm trying to find it. Let's see. That's for scraping the bolt lugs. That's for the firing pin. I thought there was another tool on here, and I'm probably just missing it. It says right there bolt tail scraper, but I'm not seeing what's supposed to do to scrape it exactly. It's not that. That's for the firing pin. I don't know. I have to look at the instructions on that again. But anyway, no matter how you do it with a heavy duty brush like this, a scraper to scrape up in this area right in here. Either way, whatever tool you use, if you do this enough and aggressively enough, you'll wind up eventually wearing out the material on your bolt tail, and you'll change the dimensions of it. And when you change the dimensions of it, and by the way, just scrubbing with a brush. If you're scrubbing with a brass brush, a stainless steel brush, a bronze brush, any kind of brush, and you catch it on these gas rings right here, these 3 gas rings, and bend them out of shape, stretch them out, or peel one of the legs off on either side of the notch they fit in right here, it can also cause a gas leakage issue. If you aggressively scrape out the inside of your bolt carrier where your bolt goes, this is your bolt recess, if you aggressively scrape out the inside surface area of this right here and change those dimensions, then your bolt will not seal properly in there, and you'll run into operational issues. The gun won't cycle properly. It may jam up. It may cycle fine every round and mess up on every other round. There's different ways it can mess up. most likely way is it's not going to cycle fully, and you're going to wind up with some partially ejected casings or partially extracted casings, and or failure to feed the next round. So just as an update to the AR15 cleaning video I did, I showed y'all how to clean the bolt carrier group with these tools and how to scrape up excess build-up carbon. But you don't want to do it every time you clean the gun, and you only want to use these tools or any other similar tools when it's absolutely necessary. When you've got a bunch of build-up, caked up carbon on this surface right here or down in here. Firing pin doesn't matter as much, but you still don't want to be scraping crap out of your firing pin for no reason either. Only use one of these tools when you've got a bunch of caked up build-on carbon that you can't get off any other way. And like I mentioned before, another good way to do it is with 4/0 steel wool. However, you still want to be cautious with that. I mean, it's soft, it's very fine, but over time, with a lot of applications, you can wind up changing the dimensions of your firing pin, your bolt carrier, or your bolt, and your bolt lug recess area of your bolt carrier. Also, I mentioned before using this tool right here, if you can see that, to scrape the inside of your bolt face. Same thing with that. Only do that when necessary, and make sure you take out your extractor and your ejector first, because you also don't want to change your angle or the dimensions of this extractor claw, because then you'll run into issues with it not properly extracting the spent casings. So just keep that in mind. There are different schools of thought, and I think I touched on this in the first video. There are different schools of thought on lubrication, how much lubrication to use. I mentioned I prefer the Hornady one-shot seal or gun cleaner and lube rather. It works great for me. I have actually ran the bolt carrier group, or the rifle this bolt carrier group is out of. It's a Delton AR15 that I've owned for years. I actually built it from or assembled it from a parts kit that I ordered from Delton. I have actually, as a test, run this gun completely dry with no lubrication whatsoever, no kind of lubricant, not even the Hornady one-shot. I ran it with nothing, and ran this gun over 1,000 rounds rather, without a single malfunction. And by the way, I was using surplus Russian military ammo. It wasn't tool ammo. I don't even use that crap. I've had a bunch of problems with that ammo in the past. The ammo I was using was brown. One of them was Brown Bear, lacquer coated ammunition, 55 grain, jacketed soft point. And I can't remember what the other one was, but it was also a lacquer coated steel cased ammo. It might have been Wolf. And I shot about equal amounts of each, and I run this gun well over 1,000 rounds without a single malfunction. With that being said, if you keep your gun in tip-top clean shape, you can run it with no lubrication. However, it is recommended to have some lubrication in these firearms. I just prefer a dry lube. That's why I use the Hornady one-shot. It gives a good coating on all the surfaces. It dries, has excellent lubricity, and it's excellent corrosion protectant, and it makes it easier cleaning them. Typically the problems I've seen running these guns when they start having malfunctions, and like I mentioned before about all the build-up carbon and keeping the bolt carrier group clean, you do need to keep it clean, but you don't need to do a detailed clean on it every single time you clean your gun. And if you properly maintain it, you won't get that build-up carbon on there to the extent that I've seen on a lot of rifles that were having issues cycling. If you keep a good lubricant on here, the carbon doesn't stick as well. It doesn't get caked up and burn on as easily. And what little bit gets on there and starts building up, the operation of the gun and the lubrication kind of helps bust it up. I prefer the Hornady. I still prefer a dry lube over a wet lube, and in all my experiences, it does a much better job of keeping your gun running properly. I'll move these gas ring splits around so that they're not lined up, and I'm going to assemble this back. Again, I am in no way sponsored by anyone. All the viewpoints and product recommendations here is based upon my personal experience and results. Everyone has their own preferences. A lot of people run these ARs with nothing but, say, break-free COP or rim oil or whatever. Personally, I don't use rim oil for anything other than lubricating sandpaper when I'm doing wet sanding. Same thing with break-free. I don't like them. I've found products that work a whole lot better in my opinion, and I prefer to use them. If you're not going to use a dry lube such as Hornady One Shot, I do recommend running these not extremely wet, but they need a decent amount of lubrication. Whatever lubricant you choose to use. If you're using a wet lube, I do recommend cleaning them slightly more often than basic clean. Don't strip your extractor and ejector out. Don't aggressively scrape your bolt tail and other parts of the gun. Just give it a good clean and roll with it. Hope this video's educated you a little bit on some things to watch out for and what not to do. Again, you just want to keep in mind, you don't want to aggressively scrape your bolt tail, your bolt face, and your bolt lug recess area of your bolt carrier to the point that you start changing dimensions of the metal. Those dimensions are critical to the proper operation, and if those dimensions are changed, then you're probably going to have to start replacing parts, and most likely your entire bolt carrier group. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.